This time calls for a more logical approach to things, but the logic needs to be applied to purposeful action. Taking action, coming away with a plan, applying more forceful energy to the task at hand, putting your freaking foot down when people push on your boundaries that you are not willing to budge on. This is the Energy Within podcast, all about accessing, nurturing, and building your energy and confidence so that you can get unstuck and design your life the way you want. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master. On the day that you're listening to this, I will actually be getting attuned to Reiki master teacher level. I'm also a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys. And speaking of the 2 little boys, one of them has finally fallen asleep. And it's the older one, which is fine. He can sleep as much as he wants because he'll still go to sleep at a decent hour. It's the little guy that I have to keep awake. And he's still awake, but that means he's continuing to come into this room and occasionally scream at me because he wants me to be sitting out there with him. So I'm trying my best to distract him, keep him playing for just a few minutes so that we can have a little chat here. You may hear him singing in the background, so if he screams, that will be edited out. But if he's just singing and talking, you may hear that, so it just comes with the territory. It's fine because I don't want him to go to sleep because he will fight bedtime to the death. So all right, so today is episode 125. 125 episodes. And I know that I have touched many times on the topic of boundaries, but I want to talk about it again in the sense of, first of all, leading you up to, of course, the Boundaries Intensive that I'm going to be running on February 26th. It is going to be a 4-hour experience, or at least that's what I'm anticipating. So it's scheduled for 9 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Central Time. If you cannot be there live, the recording will be available, so you can still do it after the fact. But what's different about this is rather than just talking about setting boundaries, why it's important, how to set boundaries even, we're actually going to take action during the intensive on setting boundaries and setting up a plan for keeping them in place, which is, in my opinion, the most important part because we can all set boundaries. We can all decide I need a boundary here. I'm deciding this for myself. This is the way it's going to be. But then when push comes to shove, we let people push a little bit and then they push a little bit more, or they just completely overstep and we don't want to seem rude. So we let them. But it ends with us not feeling aligned, with us feeling unhappy, frustrated, and that's not going to bode well in the end for anyone. So we're going to have some set aside journaling time, and then we're actually going to discuss it. You don't have to share anything you don't want to, but just to get some ideas going, see some examples. I know for me, it's really helpful to have examples because I overthink things, and I have found in situations, especially recently, when I can see the example, it actually calms me down a little bit because, like I said, I overthink, and I'll see the example answer and be like, oh, that's all I have to do? Okay. So I find that can be helpful. So we'll have that discussion, perhaps a little bit of coaching. I'm anticipating probably opening up the Akashic Records for the group, which really means in that sense for that day, we're going to invite the guides in from the Akashic Records for that group of people. It will be applicable to anyone who would be watching the replay as well. And we would ask for some coaching guidance. And of course, also within the records as well, I'm sure, we will do a group Reiki session to help clear out any blockages that have been preventing you from setting and or maintaining the boundaries that you know you need. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I would love to have you join me. Early bird pricing is only $97, and that is open all the way through February 22nd because I want as many people as possible to have access, to be able to get in. In just the final days leading up, the price will go up to $147. So make sure that you sign up as soon as possible. Invite your friends, people who you know need something like this. So with that said, that's where we're going a little bit today, is starting to focus on what to actually do when people are pushing on our boundaries and what we need to know right now about setting boundaries. So I pulled some cards to help kind of lead which way I should go. Because like I said, like I've already said a couple times, I've talked about boundaries quite a few times on the podcast. And I invite you to go back and listen to those. But again, we're going to take it a step further today. So I pulled 3 cards from my energy deck. And the first one that came up is probably pulling from my energy a little bit right now. And it's the appreciation card. But it is upright. So if it were reversed, it would be telling us that we are definitely not in an appreciative gratitude type states, but it's upright. So it is reminding us that we do have much to be grateful for. And there is more to come that we can't see. And to congratulate ourselves for every moment that we choose appreciation, because this decision shifts your consciousness from lack to value, and it's guaranteed to bring more worth and richness of life to you. And I say it's pulling from me a little bit in my energy because I always need that reminder, especially when the kids are getting screamy and whiny. It took a little over a half hour for me to finally be able to hit the record button because there was so much screaming going on. And I hope you don't take this as complaining. I'm not really complaining, but I'm just saying, like if I'm sitting on the couch, just sitting there, everything's fine. Everybody's happy. People are playing. No one's even sitting with me. They're just either watching a cartoon or playing with their toys. But the moment I go literally like 20 feet in the other direction, I'm still like right here. And I sit in a different chair, all hell breaks loose. And I know it's mom life. They want mom right next to them. But, I'll be honest, I got a little frustrated. Okay, a lot frustrated. But you gotta take a breath. And of course, yeah. Okay. Oh, JJ put a googly eye sticker next to his real eye. You want it off? I love my little guys so much and can't imagine life without them. But that doesn't mean it doesn't get frustrating at times. So we need to step into the energy of gratitude. So I think that's the first step here that we're being called to, even just for the whole boundaries idea, because that's what this card pull is around. Having gratitude for what we do have, the people and the situations that are in our lives, and even perhaps being grateful that we have the opportunity and the ability to even set boundaries in the first place. The second card that came out was 7th Chakra Archangel Uriel, and it was actually reversed. So this card, your 7th chakra, is all about your crown, your connection to the divine, and reversed, it indicates a block to your own intuition and to the potential help and power from the spirit world. Perhaps you fear opening up to this side of your life, or perhaps it's just something that seems foreign or unrealistic. Either way, it's time to awaken to the beauty and power of this realm. So what I get from this is potentially, it is, one of the blocks to why you may be unable to set or maintain boundaries, is because you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your intuition, you don't trust the signals that are coming in that are telling you that you need to set or maintain a boundary. And I'm not going to go into it here on the podcast. I'm going to save it for the intensive, but I have a story that I have not shared, at least not on the podcast. I have shared it with people in real life, but not that this isn't real life. You know what I mean? In person, I should say. But I had a situation where I had to set and then also enforce a boundary where on the surface, if you were to look at individual moments by themselves, seemed kind of harmless. But all put together and the level of the intensity behind these little moments, my gut knew something was up. And some other people around me could see it. And then some other people just didn't get it. But I knew I had to trust my gut and set this boundary and figure out a way to be able to maintain it. And that also included getting some backup, getting some help to make sure that if the boundary was pushed, that it would be upheld, even if it wasn't me directly, if that makes sense. So like this person were to approach these other people to try to get in touch with me or ask questions about me, that they would maintain the boundary for me in my physical absence. It's an interesting story. So, but you'll have to attend the intensive if you want to hear that one. But that's the thing, trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, and asking for help both here and from your guides, from God, from Jesus, from your angels. They're all here and available and waiting for you to ask for help. Here's the reminder that we have free will. So if we want them to help on an intentional level, on a greater level, we need to ask for it. And they're ready. They want us to ask. So ask. We also got the yin yang card, and that is reversed. And reverse doesn't always mean negative, or JJ is driving his little Hot Wheels cars on everything he can find, including stuff that he should not be driving him on. Anyway, reversed does not always mean negative or something bad. It just means the opposite. So specifically in this sense, if the card were to be upright, it would mean a yin cycle, which is more going within and things happening under the surface. But reversed means, and this is so perfect, wait till you hear this, it reveals a yang cycle, which is one of active, outgoing energy. This time calls for a more logical approach to things, but the logic needs to be applied to purposeful action. I'll read the rest and then I'll tell you where I feel this is going, but maybe you already know. This cycle is often marked by creativity and new beginnings, sometimes with significant outer change. Let yourself apply more forceful energy to the task at hand and take advantage of this highly charged yang time. So that has one separate meaning for me, and just making sure that me personally and my energy, that I'm taking more purposeful energy and that I keep going in that direction. But in the boundaries sense, taking action, coming away with a plan, taking, what did it say? Applying more forceful energy to the task at hand, putting your freaking foot down when people push on your boundaries that you are not willing to budge on. That's another thing we can talk about a little bit during the intensive, is that it's okay to allow people to push the boundaries and to allow them to, for lack of a better phrase, get away with it in certain situations. As long as it's you calling the shots on that and you're okay with it. If you're begrudgingly allowing people to overstep your boundaries, that's when you get yourself into a sticky situation, because then they go, oh, and then next time they try a little more. And before you know it, the boundary doesn't even exist anymore. I feel like that applies to so much. So we're definitely in that cycle of active, outgoing energy. We need to take that logical approach, write out our plan, write out what the boundaries are, and then also do the second part that we're planning to do during this intensive and apply purposeful action. Being ready. When this happens in relation to this boundary, I will do this, or I will say this. Making sure that no matter what happens with the boundary, it's you that has the final say, and that you are aligned and okay with that. Not feeling pressured, not feeling guilty. In fact, I'll give you one small example of sticking to a boundary. Being both a singer and a group exercise instructor, I am very much a fan of voice amplification, aka making sure you have a microphone. There are some places where the group exercise instructor does not have access to a mic. In one of those situations, I took matters into my own hands and I bought a wireless headset mic that I could plug the receiver into the system that was already there when I was there. So I would bring that with me every time I came to teach, set it up so that I was able to speak normally. Of course, it's a little more forceful, a little more volume behind it when you're teaching, but still not having to yell. And that way too, then the music can be at a good level and I can still be heard without having to shout and strain my voice, because you do that for too long, you are going to wreck your voice. And I've known people, not personally, like people that I know like on Facebook or through other connections that I've had. I know of people who have wrecked their vocal cords because of not using a mic in the situations where they needed them. And I had one interview that I went on and we had the sit down talking portion of it, getting to know me and what I taught and all about the format and a little bit about my personality and all that kind of stuff, my availability. And she was ready to hire me, to have me sign the paperwork. And before we did that, she's like, well, let me walk you over and show you the studio. Okay, cool. So we go over. There's currently a class going on and I find out that there is no mic. And I can't remember if this was before or after I had gotten my own mic. It must have been before. And something about this place, I don't know that I would have bothered investing in a mic at that point. But the point is they didn't have a mic. I either didn't have or was unwilling to invest in a mic at that point. And even though I felt really bad because she was, like I said, ready to hire me, we were ready to move forward. So there was that guilt of like, okay, well, I'm on board. I kind of said yeah in a way, so I need to keep going. I said no because I wasn't willing to compromise on that. It's my voice. I need that. I want to keep it for as long as possible. So I could tell she was disappointed, and I probably screwed some things up for her since she was ready to hire me. And now she had to continue looking, but I had to do what was best for me. I teach classes that require me to vocally cue. If it were something like Zumba where you don't use your voice, you only point and use directions, it would have been different. But I needed to use my voice constantly the whole time. So there was no compromising there. And I was able to keep that boundary in place because I already had decided prior to a situation like that even popping up that I would never teach without a mic. And that's the other thing. I know I feel guilt a lot. I've gotten better over the years, but I want to say in all situations, but for right now, we'll just say in many situations, we need to teach ourselves not to let that guilt take over because we're just going to end up unhappy, frustrated, and even resentful. And that's not fun. That's no way to live. Those aren't emotions that we want to be experiencing all the time. It's okay for them to come up. We're human. We can process through them, but we don't want to prolong it. So if we can avoid even getting into a situation where that could be a potential outcome, let's start by setting that boundary and knowing how we're going to enforce it. So I invite you to come along with me to this intensive. It is all online. It's over Zoom. We'll have some coffee. We'll chat. Then we'll put our heads down and do some work on figuring out where the boundaries need to be or where better boundaries need to be, coming up with a plan, a written plan on how we're going to maintain the boundaries. We will most likely get some coaching, not just from me, but from the guides that show up for the group. And we will do some group Reiki to remove the energetic blockages that have been holding you back. And one of those areas we're going to focus on is going to be your crown, because that came up today. So there we have it. Start off with gratitude. Always start in an energy of gratitude. Learn to trust yourself, ask for help, and take aligned, purposeful action. That's your message. I hope that it was helpful. If anything stuck out to you, oh God, I think JJ's coloring on the wall. If anything stuck out to you today, if you found anything helpful, if you know anybody who would like to or should attend the Boundaries Intensive with you, please share this episode, take a screenshot, do a screen flow, tag me, and let me know. And make sure you visit the show notes to find the link to sign up for the early bird pricing for the Boundaries Intensive, February 26th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. Recording available if you cannot be there live or if you can only stay for part of the time. I'm so glad that you've been here with me on this journey. And of course, as always, I invite you to come do a one-on-one Reiki session with me if you really want that super individualized, personalized attention on clearing your energy, healing your energy on all levels, mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical. You'll find the link for that in the show notes as well, and you'll find the link for booking card readings via email. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, and I'll see you next time.